What is going on? It is your podcast host, Neil Larry of the Talkin Block, and you're back watching another podcast episode of the Talkin Block live here on YouTube. It was a little close there, and I just thank you for taking the time to join in and watch with me. As you can see in the celebration, I guess you could say, or whatever you guys do, of trick-or-treating, costume decorating parties for the older people, or if you're older people with younger people and you're walking down the street, we have got on our little spooky block shirt today. See the front? That's the front. Oh, I don't know how to turn. I sat on my toe and that's the back. Anyways, I thank you for taking time. Be sure to get your shirt, your gear. I will tell you that we are not shutting down the store. The store will be open 24/7. As for the regular shirts, the seasonal shirts will be ending when the season ends. So this will end when fall ends. Then you'll have Christmas wear and all that jazz. So go get your shirt at any point in time that you want. I think that's about it, you know? So on to Poem of the Day. Poem of the Day comes from The Best Time of the Day by Raymond Cleavey Carver. And it goes like this. Cool summer nights, windows open, lamps burning, fruit in the bowl, and your head on my shoulder. These, the happiest moments in the day. Next, the early morning hours, of course, and the time just before lunch, and the afternoon and early evening hours, but I do love. The summer nights even more. I think that those are other times, the work finished for the day, and no one who can reach us now or ever. Little short, little sweet. Of course, Poem of the Day is meant to get those brain juices flowing. It's meant to make you think. It's meant to make us think. It's meant for us to just interact in a way of art, because poetry is art. I can't tell you what I think he means here, because at first, when I first read it, I was thinking he meant love. You know, the first stanza or first couple lines go, cool summer nights, windows open, lamps burning, fruit in the bowl, and your head on my shoulder. These are happiest moments in the day. So I really did think he was talking about love, but as you read on to it, he's talking just about the summer and the wonderful times that you have during the summer. And that is absolutely correct. You know, summer is a great time to just relax, to enjoy the time that you have. For the most part, children are out of school. That's when, you know, adults want to catch a little bit more of a break time. You know, it's hot in the United States at least. And, you know, take a trip and vacation to another state, sometimes to a different country, whatever the case may be, and just relax. I think the only thing that kind of trips me up about this poem is where he talks about the work is finished for the day and no one can reach us now or ever. I don't know what he means by that. That's a little trippy right there, because I mean, where is he at that no one can reach him, you know? A little bit about Mr. Raymond Carver. I think I don't even know if I said his last name, but it's Raymond Cleavey Carver. Raymond Carver, born on May 25th, 1938, Clatskanie, Oregon? I don't know. Died August 2nd, 1988, Port Angeles, Washington. Was an American short story writer and poet whose realistic writings about the working poor misered his own life. Carver was the son of a sawmill worker. He married at a year after finishing high school and supported his wife and two children by working as a janitor, gas station attendant, and delivery man. He became seriously interested in a writing career after taking a creative writing course at Chico State College, now California State University, Chico, in 1958. His short stories began to appear in magazines while he studied at Humboldt State College, now Humboldt State University, in Arcata, California. Carver's first success as a writer began in 1967 with the story Will You Please Be Quiet, Please? And he began writing full-time after losing his job as a textbook editor in 1970. This highly successful short story collection, Will You Please Be Quiet Please, established his reputation. Carver began drinking heavily in 1967 and reportedly hospitalized for alcoholism in the 1970s while continuing to turn out short stories. After conquering his drinking problem in the late 1970s, he taught for several years at the University of Texas at El Paso and Syracuse University in 1983. He won a literary award whose generous annual stipend freed him to again concentrate on his writing full time. His later short story collections were What We Talk About When We Talk About Love, Cathedral, and When I'm Calling From. While his short stories were what made his critical reputation, he was also an accomplished poet in the realist tradition of Robert Frost. Carver's poetry collections include At Night, The Salem Move, Where Water Comes Together with Other Water, and Ultratrine. He died of lung cancer at the age of 50. That's just a little bit about Mr. Raymond Cleavey Carver. If you want to read more, I will go ahead and post the links down below. But again, the poem of the day is The Best Time of the Day, and where I think it's talking about the summer and just a wonderful time to enjoy. On to the interesting topics of the day, which is ESPN on the Talking Block. We haven't talked about it in a while. It's been a little minute. And we're going to change it up a little bit. I'm not going to talk about every game because I didn't watch every game. And sometimes you just got to be honest, you know. I will tell you that from the games that I did watch, I watched the Rams, I watched the 49ers, I watched the Browns, I watched the Falcons, I watched the Eagles, I watched the Commanders, I watched the Steelers, and I did watch the Chiefs. And I like what I see from those games. Of course, the Rams with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back, I think that the Rams have a spark in them again. There were a little, if he plays, especially with Sam Darnold getting a nice clean face mask and it not being called. Otherwise than that, I think it was a good ball game. The Rams came out and did what they had to do again with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back on the field. I feel like the Rams have a different spark in them again. 49ers look good as usual against the Cowboys, which is it was kind of like an indefinite win, although they did have a rough start in the first half, but they still came out and showed what it meant to be a 49er. Falcons versus, I think they went against the Buccaneers. Yes, that was a good game, really good game actually. But Kirk Cousins is just, with his primetime intelligence and being in the game for so long, was just able to override what Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers had on their offense and defense. And Drake London, Ray McLeod, all of them just came out and showed out that game. Eagles versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know. I don't know. I feel everybody's talking about how the Eagles have their spark back. I don't want to say that they don't, but I don't want to say that they do. I feel like they're still in a little rough patches as usual with any team that is trying to win an NFL season. But it's just a weird rough patch, and I feel like they are going back to what we know them to be for the Eagles, but they still got a lot to work on, and we'll see. I mean, they still look good against the Cincinnati Bengals. At the same time, Cincinnati Bengals are a little off this season completely. I mean, Joe Burrow just doesn't seem like Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase, I feel like those two, there's a weird relationship between them right now, and that is what is setting the Cincinnati Bengals for failure. But I don't know. Texans versus the Colts. Anthony Richardson was back on the field, and I don't know. He just didn't seem right for the calling at this time. Stephon Diggs did end up getting pulled out of the game, so we'll see about him and his future injuries. Schultz was not in the game, but Nico Collins, Tank Dell, all of them were in the game, and they were doing their thing. Might I also include that Sunday was National Tight Ends Day, and all the tight ends were getting the attention of the year. But yeah, Texans came out with the win, and that was that. Commanders versus the Bears. That was a good game. Throughout the game, it was just the Texans and the Commanders going back and forth until it took into the last couple seconds of the game, where Jaden Daniels decided to throw his Hail Mary and completed it for a touchdown. Steelers versus I believe it was the New York Giants. Don't remember. But Steelers look good. Russell Wilson, I think that he's starting to get back into his bag. Last week was a little iffy. I will say that I was still watching the games because I don't want to be left behind. But I don't know. Russell Wilson just But as usual, Justin Fields came out, did what he had to do, looked good. And then Chiefs versus the Raiders. I'm going to stick to this saying, I don't think, even with DeAndre Hopkins on the Chiefs now, I still feel like the Chiefs are still playing mediocre. I'm just going to be honest. They only beat them 27-20. So it's just kind of like, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the Chiefs are 7-0, but I think that's just because they're a prime time offense and defense. So they don't really have to play to the expense of everybody else does, because they just are what they are. I don't know. Andy Reid, and Andy Reid is probably the best coach that the NFL will ever have, and so he knows how to work his offense and defense. That's just what it is. Man, but I will tell you, I got some good things for you. We'll start off with the standings for every team. Starting off in the AFC East, Bills go 6-2, Dolphins go 2-5, Patriots go 2-6, Jets are also 2-6. Kind of to talk about these teams, Bills looks good. They are doing what they need to do. Keenan Coleman is having his breakout couple games, looks good. Josh Allen, even with these two losses, he still looks top tier, and I think that honestly, if they keep going the way that they're going, they are going to win AFC East. Dolphins, Tua is back in the game, so we'll see how they do. I think that at the end of the day, it is going to be the Dolphins and the Bills as for the fighting for the title of the AFC East. Patriots and Jets, 2-6. I had a lot of faith in Jets at first, and now I'm just like, okay, let's get them off the field, because Aaron Rodgers just isn't pulling it together. The fact that the Patriots are above the Jets right now is kind of crazy. But hey, that is what that is. AFC West. Chiefs are 7-0, Broncos are 5-3, Chargers are 4-3, and the Raiders are 2-6. Of course, Chiefs are the Chiefs. Like I said, Andy Reid just knows how to work his offense and defense. You got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Jones in the defense, Pacheco, which I think is still out, Xavier Worthy, now DeAndre Hopkins. You just have a stacked offense and defense on both sides of the field. So there is no really compatibility when it comes to who could be better than the Chiefs at this moment. But I still think that the Chiefs are playing mediocre. Broncos, they're looking a lot better. Bo Nix is leading that offense, and he just looks really good. Chargers and the Raiders. I will say that the Chargers are a sneak team. I think that they have the possible contingency to be in the playoffs. The way that they've been looking lately, there's a possibility they could be in the playoffs, but who knows? Raiders, I mean, they started out the season looking okay. In preseason they looked really good, and then I don't know what happened, but it is what it is. AFC North, we got the Steelers with 6-2, Ravens 5-3, Bengals 3-5, and then the Browns 2-6. Again, Steelers look really good. I will say Justin Fields looks a lot better than Russell Wilson, but both are leading the offense pretty well. Ravens, man, I don't know what happened this last recent game against the Browns, but I will tell you that Jameis Winston just kind of did what he had to do. But Ravens, they still look good. Just a minor couple deficits that they have to work on, but they'll be back in the bag. Bengals, not much to say about the Bengals. I think that they will end up at the bottom tier of the AFC North eventually, because the Browns have Jameis Winston now that Watson is hurt. And I think that the way that Jameis Winston was looking against the Ravens this past Sunday, there is no way that they are not going to be a good team coming up. Now, will they make it to the playoffs? I don't know. That depends on how Jameis Winston wants to play. But I will say that they are going to become a good contending team for a nice little record to finish out the season. AFC South, we got Texans 6-2, Colts 4-4, Jags 2-6, and then Titans 1-6. Texans look good. C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, all of them look really good. Not Bo Nixon. Joe Mixon looks really good. So the Texans have a pretty stacked team. Defense looks pretty good. I feel like they will finish out the AFC South in first place, and Colts are just going to be right behind them. As for the last two teams, Jags and Titans, we're not worried about them, honestly. They're just here to play, honestly, and entertain. And then going to the NFC East, we got Commanders 6-2, Eagles 5-2, Cowboys 3-4, Giants 2-6. Between the Cowboys and the Giants, we're not worried about either of them. It really is just between the Commanders and the Eagles, and I honestly think that the Commanders are going to take the NFC East title. They look really, really good. And again, with this last game that just passed, Jaden Daniels came out, had a rib injury, and just showed out this game. So there is no questions about it. And I think that Jaden Daniels has solidified his spot for Rookie of the Year with that play. NFC West, we got the Cardinals, 49ers, Seahawks, and Rams. Cardinals 4-4, 49ers 4-4, Seahawks 4-4, and then the Rams 3-4. This is a good conference because literally all of them are 4-4, and I think every last single team, they have what they need to win. It's just about who wants it more. Cardinals, Kyler Murray looks really good. 49ers, granted, they have a couple out players right now, but that doesn't matter. They still look good when they don't have their star players. When they do have their star players, sometimes they do go just against a better team that is going to beat them. I don't know what to tell. But yeah, Seahawks are a little iffy. They started out the season really good, and then they just kind of started plummeting. But I think that they still look good. And then the Rams, now with their starters back, they are going to go on a rise to the win something, if not the title for the NFC West. A good, I don't know, but they look like they're going to be on the rise for a couple wins. And then you got the NFC North with Lions 6-1, Packers 6-2, Vikings 5-2, Bears 4-3. Lions, Packers, man, both of them look good, but I will say that the Vikings are still in contention spots. So this is a good conference too. Bears, as low as they are, I feel like the Bears, if they get it together with Caleb Williams leading the offense, they could also still fight for a title on the NFC North. So that is, it's a little iffy, but I will say that I think the Lions are going to come out on top. NFC South, you got the Falcons, Bucks, Saints, and Panthers. Falcons 5-3, Buccaneers 4-4, Saints 2-6, and then the Panthers 1-7. Falcons leading the offense is Kirk Cousins, looks good. Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield. As for the Saints and the Panthers, they're also, again, bottom tier teams right now. Saints came out doing great things, and then all of a sudden they just stopped doing that. So I don't know what happened. And then you got the Panthers. Man, I don't know what to tell them either, because they're there. Honestly, they're entertaining. So yeah. As for the second part, what I got for you guys is we're going to talk about our top 10 quarterbacks. I couldn't get the word out. Coming from looking after, well, I don't know what I'm trying to say. After week 8, some of our top 10 quarterbacks. Coming in at number 10 is Matthew Stafford. I put him in at number 10 because he's still a top tier quarterback. This season, I think with the amount of injuries that his players have been getting, and then at the same time just not having some good players, he seems bottom tier. Russell Wilson is still a good quarterback. Granted, he does have his "are you okay" plays, but he still looks good. And then Baker Mayfield. He was starting out really good, and then just a couple games after, it was just like, all right, you're not at the hype that we thought you were at, but you're still really good. You're still leading your offense to some good wins. And then you got Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the better of Russell Wilson. He is the reason why I think that the Steelers are so far ahead in their conference, and why I think that if the Steelers do the right things, they will win their conference. And then coming in at number 6 is Jordan Love. I feel like Jordan Love could be higher, but after injury, he's still working on getting back to what Jordan Love is. At the same time, we haven't seen a lot of him this season because he's been injured. Besides, the first game and then these past 3 recent games, I believe. Coming in at number 5 is CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, I feel like he's playing a little mediocre. He looks good. He's making plays. He's leading his offense to these wins, but it's just not the CJ Stroud that we were seeing in playoffs last year. Coming in at number 4 is Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins looks good. Kirk Cousins is going to be the reason why the Falcons win in their conference. Kirk Cousins is doing great things. And then at number 3, I have Patrick Mahomes. Like I said, Chiefs, I feel like they're playing mediocre. I really do believe that even with everybody that they have, they're not winning at the expectation level that we want them to. And so that's why I say Chiefs, they're bottom 3 right now. Do I believe that Patrick Mahomes can come back and be number 1? Absolutely. I mean, obviously, for him to win a 3-peat, that's going to make him number 1. But it's just like, I don't know. Right now, it's not speaking to me. Number 2 is Jared Goff. Jared Goff looks good. The defense looks good. Offense looks good. But because of Jared Goff and the way that he is playing right now, the Lions could practically be undefeated. They did lose. They have only lost 1 game. Only 1. So it's just like, ugh. But yeah, Jared Goff looks good. And then coming at number 1 is Jaden Daniels, Rookie of the Year. There is no way that you cannot tell me that Jaden Daniels is not the quarterback coming out, number 1 quarterback coming out of Week 8. There is no way you cannot. And if you disagree, I'd like to know who your number 1 is. And it better not be Patrick Mahomes either, because, yeah. But Jaden Daniels, Rookie of the Year, and also coming out of Week 8 is quarterback 1 of this week. And that's all I got for ESPN on the Talking Block. As for what's going on in the world, what's going on in the news, nothing in particular, but with November 5th coming up, if you don't know what that is Election Day. And so I advertise, I advocate, I tell you guys, I applaud if you already have, but get out there and go and vote. Your voice matters. You are going to be the reason why this country builds or breaks, honestly. And for the young people, I specifically speak to you. You guys are going to be the voice and change. A lot of older people, they can get out and vote all they want to, but it is your lives that our lives that we are sticking up for right now. So I'm talking to the 18-year-olds all the way up to I'd say 35, honestly. 18 between 35, you guys, we have to live with whatever happens in the aftermath for the next 4 years and possibly 12 to 8 after, 8 to 12 after. Because, I mean, when you look at it, this presidency, we had to deal with Joe Biden. And then we also had to deal with the aftermath of Donald Trump before Joe Biden. So that's why I say for the next 8 to 12 years, even within these 4 years that are coming up, it's not just what happens within these 4 years, but it plays out for the next 8 to 12 years. So you guys are the reason why we need to get out and vote. We need to make a change. We need to be able to advocate for ourselves and be able to play out what we want to live in a life of peace, harmony, and joy. Although that might not happen, but it's what we want. So it's what we need to advocate our voices for. As for the black news, exonerated Central Park 5 sued Trump for defamation after debate comments. Basically, here on NBC News, the 5 who make up the Central Park 5 are now calling themselves the Exonerated 5 have filed a defamation lawsuit against Donald Trump over his remarks during the presidential debate last month. The lawsuit focuses on the September 10th debate in Pennsylvania, where Trump said the 5 men, Atron McCray, Kevin Richardson, Yusuf Salaam, Raymond Santana, and Corey Wise pleaded guilty when they were tried in connection with assault and rape of a woman who had been running in the Central Park in April 19th, 1989, and the victim had died. And we'll stop right there because the victim did not die. and they were also not guilty. But if you don't know who the Central Park 5 was, there is also a Netflix series, When They See Us, and it tells you about it. But these 5, at the time, young men were out in the park, not let alone they didn't know each other. I think only 2. I think it was Yusuf Salam and Corey Wise are the only 2 that knew each other. But the rest of them were out in the park, Central Park, and they were just playing around. There was a couple riots going on, and then the police come. Everybody's running, and they catch these 5 a couple days later. It's not even that they caught him the day of. They catch him a couple days later, and they just put them all in together in connection. Say, hey, you guys are the 5 that have done this, and this is what we're gonna do. And further on, it talks about right here, the 5 teenagers who, when they were indicted, maintained their innocence throughout their trials and incarceration. In their trials, they were charged with assault of the female jogger as well as assaults and robberies in Central Park 5. The 5 spent years behind bars before they were exonerated in 2002 after DNA evidence linked another man, a serial rapist, to the attack. The city ultimately agreed in a legal settlement to pay the exonerated men $41 million. The case was subsequently heavily scrutinized after the 5 were claimed they were intimidated and coerced to make false confessions. That was what I was looking for. So these 5 boys are brought in, separated at that. Their parents do not know of this. And so what the police do is they coerce them, they hit them, they beat them, they threaten them, they, manipulate, say, hey, you're going to say this, and I promise I'll give you this, such and such. And what happens is all 5 boys are like, okay, fine, and they point out each other in this case and say, hey, it was him, hey, it was him, hey, it was him. And they eventually put all 5 of them together, and that's how they conclude this case in 1989, saying all 5 of these boys were there at the time of the crime scene, did it to this person, and such and such. In 2002, we find out it was another man. I know that the movie, the Netflix series, which I'm not sure is true or not, but in the series, Corey Wise is the last person to get out of jail. And a couple months before, Corey Wise is talking to the person that actually did it, which is weird because he was already in jail. But Corey Wise is talking to the person that is in jail, and that's how they find out, hey, this wasn't the person. Well, these 5 men were not the people that did it. So I'm not sure exactly how that played out, how they found him exactly, but that's how the movie portrayed it. So yeah. As for what he said, Trump's I don't think it's right here in this one. It says, nope, here it is. The complaint said Trump's statement are demonstrably false, adding plaintiffs never plead guilty to any crime and were subsequently cleared all wrongdoing. Further, the victims of the Central Park assaults were not killed. The complaint further said that the men, now in their 50s, have suffered injuries as a result of defendant Trump's false and defamatory statements. What? I'm trying to figure out what he said. I know it says it in here. Maybe not. Basically, what Trump was saying was that they were guilty, that they killed him, and that they were in the wrong. And this is why we need to get out and vote. I'm not speaking against, speaking politics, but that is just one of the prime examples for why we need to get out and vote, because you have people like this that are going to step into office and deform our characters, whether you be white, black, Mexican, who cares, but more so for the minority. So it is prominent that you get out and vote, but at the same time, yeah. But that's all I got for the topic of the day, news, poem of the day, and black news. I thank you for taking the time to listen to another podcast episode of The Talkin Block with your podcast host, Nate Larrier. Be sure to listen to Talkin Block on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Stay here on YouTube, The Talkin Block Live. Follow my Instagram at the.talking.block. On my TikTok, toast.2.becoming. Be sure to get a shirt, whether it be this shirt or a regular shirt. Like I said, they'll be open 24/7 now. The only thing that will change is the seasonal shirts, which this one ends in fall, and then we'll have some Christmas gear, every so on and so forth. And we'll also have summer, spring, stuff like that. Might have like little Valentine's, but I'm in the works. That's why it's kind of taking me so long to get something out. But be sure to get your shirt support. I love you guys. Thanks for the love and support. Be sure to watch Talkin Block next week. And oh my goodness, you know what I almost forgot? We got to talk about what we think about next week's couple games. Before we go, let's see who's playing next week. Next week, we got the Texans and the Jets. I'm going to give it to the Texans. The Saints and the Panthers. I'm going to give it to the Saints. Commanders versus the Giants. I'm going to give it to the Commanders. Dolphins versus the Bills. I'm going to give it to the Bills. Chargers versus the Browns. I'm going to give it to the Chargers. Patriots versus the Titans. I'm going to give it to the Patriots. Cowboys versus the Falcons. I'm going to give it to the Falcons. Bengals versus the Raiders. I'm going to give it to the Bengals. Broncos versus the Ravens. I'm going to give it to the Ravens. Bears versus the Cardinals. I'm going to give it to the Cardinals. Jags versus the Eagles. I'm going to give it to the Eagles. Rams versus Seahawks. It's a tough one, but I'm going to give it to the Rams. Lions versus the Packers. That is going to be a good game. I'm going to give it to the Lions. Vikings versus the Colts. I'm going to give it to the Vikings. And then the Bucks versus the Chiefs. I'm going to give it to the Chiefs. And that is what it's going to look like for week 9. There you go. And we'll see about what happens next week. Again, thank you for love and support. Love you guys. Make sure that you tune in to all streaming platforms. Stay here on YouTube. And I will see you guys next time.